So we chose that particular song to go with a talk about kindness. Now this mic is pretty lively. I'm just going to stand a little ways off back here.
You hardly need a mic at all.
Hardly at all, but for our Zoom people, right? Now one morning, not so long ago, I was sitting quietly reading when my phone buzzed, alerting me to a call. It was the end of a work week. I was in a very relaxed mood for a change. Maybe even in a state of reverie. Then buzz! I looked at the number. Like any of us, I get many calls that are solicitations, right? And this number looked, well, I didn't know it, and maybe it was somebody selling me something. Then again, thought I, and isn't it amazing how quickly we can process through all the possibilities? We've been getting more church gigs lately. What if this is some opportunity that I would miss? You see fear and insecurity raising its head there. And so I answered, hello? Hello, is Peter there? Oh no, I'm afraid you have the wrong. Well, this is Darlene, and you'll be amazed to know about our new offer. End of reverie. Darlene is a real reverie killer. I have to tell you, there is a certain inner tiger that at times co-occupies my body and soul. You wouldn't know it just looking at me. But when Darlene, maybe not her real name, started her pitch, I manifested a bit of the Incredible Hulk. Nice try with his, is your Peter there nonsense. She keeps talking over me. Shut up! I'm not falling for your horse hockey, and your whole rotten organization is going to be reported to the Washington State Attorney General's office. And then I hung up. I showed her, I thought. I am not putting up with this. I have won the battle. I am victorious. It's amazing, by the way, how we humans like to, and maybe have to, see ourselves as the victors. I heard a lecture on ancient Egypt, and the professor pointed out that in all the annals of the pharaoh's battles, there was never one recorded defeat. Just victories occurring closer and closer to the capital. Think about it. Now later, after the adrenaline had drained and my testosterone levels were down to a relatively non-toxic intensity, I began to think about this call. I hadn't been thinking at all when I was in it. It was all fight or flight. Or to be more accurate, it was all fight or more fight. One thing I thought about quite honestly was, what would Jesus say if his mobile device buzzed in his pocket and Darlene asked for Peter? And did those robes even have pockets? And if not, where did they keep their smartphones? Now, Jesus might have said, Peter, you mean my disciple, Simon Peter, the rock on which I'm building my church? But really, and here is the difference, by the way, between Jesus and me. In case you were wondering, I don't believe he would have gone all attack Wolverine on Darlene. I suspect he would have found some way to be kind to a person who, A, probably didn't pick soliciting random people on their phones as her first job choice on career day, and B, was likely not having such a swell day herself. Have you ever had a phone sales job? I have for about 5 minutes. And so then I thought, what would my day be like if I had been able to detoxify my experience of the world, if my response had been something other than hostile? If my back were not hurting right now from the pain that follows an adrenaline rush? Glenn's like, yeah, I know what that feels like. Rumi says, when we practice loving kindness and compassion, we are the first ones to profit. How much would I profit? Would all I touch profit if I could just be kind? What does it take to consistently act out of kindness, to manifest that, to simply be kind to all I come in contact with? I'm sure that a piece of the solution here must be to consciously make kindness a constant goal, a touchstone. Can it be a part of my morning prayer or meditation that I be kind? Could I sometimes go deeper and engage in a loving kindness practice? You know, that practice in which you wish happiness and the root of happiness to initially someone that you dearly love and you have no conflicts with. Think of a beloved grandchild, maybe a pet. And then you start trying to do it with someone that you've known a long time and you have mixed feelings about. And then you pick people you're really neutral about. And then you work your way up to manifesting loving kindness to pick anybody you don't like, right? Somebody you really can't stand, somebody in the media, in culture, in politics, somebody you just, oh my God. And you try to manifest that loving kindness, that kind of practice. Can I live in remembrance of the potential for kindness or unkindness in every interaction? And could I refrain from engaging when kindness seems just impossible? If I can't answer my phone with kindness, well, that's why God made voicemail, right? Now, I know that deliberate and conscious kindness is no doubt something many in this community, or perhaps all of us, strive to practice. Yet I know for myself that I fall short only to try again to forgive myself. As the reading today talked about, forgiving ourselves for the times we've come up short. As I hope to forgive others and embrace kindness. I saw a friend from high school who'd written on Facebook, forgiving my ex was the best gift I ever gave myself. I believe that forgiving oneself would be a similar gift, would be an investment really in the bank of kindness. To forgive ourselves our own trespasses allows us to forgive those who trespass against us. Those who ring our phones on our day off, posing as a wrong number caller only to pounce with their pitch. Because the truth is, we don't really have a day off. We don't have days off from the work of caring about our fellows and ourselves and from trying to be kinder people. That work is lifelong. And kindness could be, in fact, just a small gesture saying hello to a stranger who looks a little gnarly and lonely, instead of going and talking to someone I already know and love. It's paying attention so we recognize what might be going on in others' lives. The year 2025 is a year when each time I give a talk, I'm mandated by an inner guide to reference Albert Schweitzer. He was born, as we all know, 150 years ago on January 14th, 1875. You guys knew that. I'm just saying what you knew already. So I'm paying attention and reviewing his life this year, finding something to share. And I want to tell you about an act of kindness he performed in a lifetime that was filled with such actions. Schweitzer and his wife, Helena, I'm not sure how she said her name, she had trained as a nurse, he as a doctor, and they were German nationals working in a colonial French territory in Gabon. They began their hospital work in 1913. The next year, something significant happened. The First World War broke out, and they were detained by French authorities. Even though what they were doing was far removed from the actions in Europe and other theaters of that world, they were in a French territory as German nationals, and they were ultimately interned in a camp in the south of France, taken from their mission. I came across a letter in Schweitzer's correspondence in which he wrote to the director of the camp, stating he appreciated the consideration for his status as a non-combatant, that the director might allow him to leave the camp freely. But he said, there is much work I can do here in the camp, helping my fellow detainees with illnesses they're suffering from. Thank you anyway, but I will stay in the internment camp where I can be of service. That is kindness, to give up your freedom to help others. Sally, who is a very kind person to have put up with me for a long time, was also paying attention more than I was, characteristically, when a man named Howard came over to help us with our furnace some years ago. This Howard is a big, friendly fellow who fixed our furnace, then replaced our furnace, and installed a heat pump. And often, when he's come by on a service call, he charges us nothing. He just comes by, fixes some little thing, and says, oh, that's okay. I was in the neighborhood. Which isn't true. Our house is far removed from any neighborhood. Generally speaking, Howard is pretty much the ideal repairman anyone would want. For some reason, when he was over one time, Sally asked him when his birthday falls. And we came to find out he has a special birthday, December 25th. Yes, that's right. It's the same as Isaac Newton's and Jimmy Buffett's. I knew you were thinking that. And there are all the attendant problems that can bring never getting a real birthday celebration and so on your whole life. When Howard left that afternoon, Sal said to me, we should send him something at Christmas for his birthday. And we agreed to send him a batch of homemade cookies with strict instructions that these were for Howard and Howard alone, in celebration of his birthday and nothing else. Now, our furnace was working flawlessly for a while after that. We didn't see Howard for perhaps 2 years. We had no idea what had become of the cookies, what difference, if any, they'd made to him, if in fact he'd actually received them. But when our thermostat went on the blink, which it used to do once in a while, by the way, this was a thermostat that would work fine all winter. And then you get into the summer months, you're not really using it, right? It's just relaxed temperature. And then September 25th or October 1st, when we need a little heat, we'd adjust the thermostat and nothing would happen. It forgot how to work over the course of the summer. So it went on the blink. Sal called Howard and he came to the house. And after he had capably resolved our thermo issues, Sal asked him about the cookies. Howard paused for a moment and got kind of a faraway look in his eyes and then said, you know, there was a guy who was very sad and lonely a while back. He was going through a hellacious divorce and was really in a state of despair. In fact, he didn't even know if he was going to make it. It's very interesting when someone tells you a story in the third person about themselves, right? And he goes on to say, then on his birthday, somebody sent him this outrageous box of homemade cookies. He was so blown away to get that package, that box of cookies. That simple gift meant so much to him, he realized people cared for him.
You're making me cry.
Suddenly, he felt like he could keep going and he would make it after all. That's what Howard said to us. You never know how far, how deep, and how wide the smallest act of kindness will go. We never know the full effects of our kindness to another soul, but we sometimes are granted a glimpse, and we know that we truly have made a difference. And sometimes we may even save someone's life by the simplest act. We've heard talk in recent years of disruptive innovations, technologies, the wide adoption of mobile phones, for example. It's been a disruptive innovation that has made the phone booth a rarity. Although on Whidbey Island, where we're moving, they have 1 or 2 phone booths, and calls are free. That's why we're moving there. But this disruptive, we don't even need to mention AI, which has taken disruptive to the level of eruptive. Could it be, though, that we can use kindness as a disruptive force in our robot dog eat robot dog world? Disruptive kindness could short circuit a transactional nature that tends to happen in our interactions. When Darlene calls to sell me a timeshare or whatever, I could be kind to her instead of going to war. Maybe I could treat her like family, like I treated my precious 90-something Aunt Elaine whenever she happened to be on the phone with me. For in truth, the word kind and the word kin come from the same root. And just as these words come from the same root, so too we all come from the same roots, and we're part of the same family. It would be a truly loving and disruptive kindness to offer a caring perspective and a willingness to engage at a soul level with the next stranger we meet, or the next solicitor who rings us on the phone. That person on the other end, that person we run into, they're always something other than a stranger or a solicitor. So may we be kind today to ourselves, to our friends, to strangers, to people who disagree with us or look like they come from a different tribe in our vast, complex, multi-tribal culture. We never know what fruit will come from the seeds of the smallest act of kindness. We are all in this together. We're dancing here only for a short time, and in truth, we are all kin in the kingdom of heaven. So let us live in awareness of our kinship with all beings, and may our actions be of the kindest kind. Thank you.